Right, I believe we are now broadcasting live. And if you can see me and hear me, could you just put a yes or a no in the little box on the chat box? Chat has been enabled, so you should be able to do that. Let's see who's here. Nicola is here. Hello, Nicola. Nice to, well, see you, hear you, look at you. I always wonder what best to put when I'm doing webinars with people. Can you actually hear me, Nicola? That's what I need to know. Oh, good. Excellent. It looks like it may just be you and me today, which means you're going to get a wonderful private lesson. We'll give them a little bit more. Make sure you've got your cup of tea in front of you, and yeah, we'll get going soon, hopefully. This is a tip with webinars. It's something I think people should know. And if you're thinking of doing webinars, consider this initial moment, because every webinar when you start it, unless you're really sort of disciplined and have hundreds of people who have turned up, you sort of start a webinar with that feeling of, oh, is anyone going to come and join me? Am I all by myself? Am I talking to myself? I wouldn't worry about it. The chances are when you first start doing webinars, and I know for me, I get a lot more people come to replays than I tend to get on the live ones. And whether I need to change something or not, I don't know. But this initial chat with you, as it is at the moment, it's you, Nicola, is a great way to start building some rapport and getting people ready to listen. And it's a great time and a chance to say to them, look, go grab your cup of tea now, make yourself comfortable, turn your phones off, stop playing with Facebook, shut down the email for a while, and we'll get into a really good session. So let's make a start. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share with you the presentation for this. And this particular webinar is about simplicity, the simple things that will help you speak with confidence. Okay. I do other webinars on video and presentation and how many slides to use and things like that. But you'll get an idea from me how I present when I'm doing a webinar with the slides I use and what extra content you get in. So I now am going to share the screen. Here we go. Bear with me. We're sharing the screen. We're going to present to everyone. Okay, so, and again with these webinars, some webinars you can actually upload your document and it looks all beautiful. This particular webinar platform I'm using, not so simple, so you don't get such a lovely clean looking presentation. But hey, this is all about the content, not about how pretty it looks. So let's make a start. And Nicola, if you've got any questions or anything that you know you're confused about, or you want to just sort of jump in with, put the question in there, and then towards the end you and I can have a chat about how to do whatever the question is, the answers. Okay. So, are we sitting comfortably? Good. The first 3 minutes. Now, it seems strange as I'm trying to help you become confident speakers that I'm going to talk to you about something at the moment that is going to cause you a certain amount of insecurity and pressure. You see, the first 3 minutes are the 3 most important minutes of any presentation or speech you do, because that's when you make your first impression. And I want you to imagine, and I know because I've done it, you've gone along to a conference, you've gone along to a seminar, and you're sitting there and you're flicking through thinking, oh, I hope this is good, or you know, I hope he doesn't kill me with power. All those questions are going through your head. And when that speaker walks out, within 3 minutes, you have made up your mind, even if you don't realize it, how well that speaker is going to come across to you, and to you personally, not to anybody else, to you personally. So you have to make a first impression in those 3 minutes. And that's not easy. It's not, because you're all geared up because you've got your first public speaking gig, you're ready to do that seminar, you're ready to do all these things, and suddenly you hear Bev's little voice in your ear going, it's the first 3 minutes that count. Well, a simple trick to the first 3 minutes: be calm, be still, and just stand. Don't be tempted to rush in and just start. Use that to ground yourself. And I promise you, the audience will be so fascinated by what you're going to do next. You've got them. You've grabbed their attention. Because if you don't grab them during that 3 minutes, you are going to be playing catch up all the way through, trying to get them back. And it's very hard once you've lost somebody, because today, and I, again, seen it so many times, people sit listening to you playing on the phone, Twittering or Facebooking or checking their emails. So you've got to, it's even harder today to grab their attention. Okay. So those first 3 minutes are really, really important. That will decide whether people want to listen, whether they think you've got anything to say. You need to build that rapport with your audience in those first 3 minutes. And often a funny remark, a story, anything that will build that rapport will get the audience on your side. Don't apologize. I've seen people say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Never, never apologize, because those people in the audience have come to listen to you. They haven't been randomly plucked off the street. So take those first 3 minutes. Find a way to grab the attention of your listeners, but use those 3 minutes wisely, because after that, downhill all the way. No, uphill all the way. That was a really wrong metaphor, wasn't it? But I mean, it gets easier if you could grab those first 3 minutes. So the other thing I want you to think about is the power of words. If you use the right words for your audience, that's something else that are going to get them on your side. Words are so important. Words heal, they motivate, they annoy, they make you squirm. Words have that effect on people. If you think of that term and you say to somebody, come here, your instant reaction 9 times out of 10 is to go to that person, depending on how they've said it. Things like write this down. You've got the pen in your hand and you're ready to write. That is the power of words. And how many people, have you said, oh, I really appreciate that, thank you, and that has had an uplifting effect? In fact, how many people who say that to you have given you an uplifting effect? Because the power of words are just so important. And I cannot emphasize enough that if you want to really, really get your audience on side and engage with them and turn them into fans and people who want to listen to you, find the words that they hear emotionally and react to. You see, words possess as much power to one person as they do 1,000 people. And those of you that have heard me speak before will know I'm always saying you're only ever talking to one person at a time. So use those words really, really wisely and effectively. Understand the influence that the words you use are going to have on the audience who are listening to you. Okay, don't use terms lightly. Don't just throw common phrases around or things that you may think are funny but may not be, because a wrong word or a wrong phrase can seriously turn a friend into a foe very, very quickly. And if you start treading on people's emotional beliefs, you could be in serious trouble. So you need to know the people you're talking to. And we come on to that on the next time when we talk about researching your audience. The power of words will get you the outcome you want, or the power of words will turn everybody off. So don't be afraid to be edgy if that's the audience you're listening to. If you want to get people really motivated, in some charity campaigns, for instance, against cruelty to animals or something, they use very, very emotive, powerful words to make people really sit up and take notice. You've only got to watch the news to see the sort of words they use when they talk about terrorists or they talk about starving children. So, it's not new to you, the power of words, but you need to just get it into your head and really understand how your words are going to affect your audience, the people you're listening to, and especially in what you want them to do. Okay, so there's a lot more on this on the PDF that I give away after this, a lot more in the content, because you can become a little overwhelmed when I go on about the power of words. It's almost a webinar in itself. So leading on from the power of words is you have to know your audience, and there is absolutely no excuse for not knowing your audience unless a speaker hasn't turned up, you are having a cup of coffee at the community centre, quietly minding your own business, and somebody came and dragged you in and said, please talk to these people. That's the only time you're not going to know who your audience are. And it always amazes me how many times I've watched presentations or speakers who do not know who they're talking to. And the message they're trying to give goes right over everybody's head because it just doesn't fit. If you're doing a presentation or a speech, ring up the organisers, ask them who the audience are. Where did they come from? Why are they coming to listen to you? And try beforehand to mingle with your audience. Try to build some rapport before you even start by understanding your audience. You need to know who you're talking to so that you can use those words effectively. And you need to know why you are talking to them. What do you want them to do? Or what does the organisers want you to help them do? Otherwise, why waste people's time if you're just there talking at them? So know who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, and ask the organisers, why are they there? How have they signed up? Have they been told they have to be there? Did they choose to be there? Try and work that one out, okay? I mean, if you're putting on your own event, then you're going to know who your audience are because you will have been talking to your ideal client, and your ideal client are going to be there. You know why they're there, and you know what you're telling them. So research that audience. She says that she's lost track of what she's doing. Right. Practice. Yes. Practice, 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 and practice some more. There are few of us who can go on a stage or any platform, anywhere, even if you're doing a video or a webinar, and can just talk. Even less people can do that and get a clear message and a call to action across at the same time. I can talk for England. If somebody said to me, can you get up on that stage and talk about whatever because our speakers run away? Yeah, I could probably do that. I'd probably wet myself beforehand, but I could do that. What I couldn't do is really focus in on a message and a call to action to that audience. Because one, I don't know who they are, and I haven't practiced. I haven't, done the work. I haven't got it so clear in my head and know my stuff so well. So really, I'd just be gabbling at them, which actually members of my family say I do a lot. I do a lot of gabbling. Quite like to gabble, if that's the right word. So I'm not going to put anything else on that slide. It's just practice, practice, practice. That's the only way you are going to get polished at what you do. Now, the trick is not to practice so hard that all you can see are the faults in what you're doing. That's counterproductive. You're practicing just to get your delivery right, to embed that knowledge of your stuff in your head. So when you're nervous and, you know, standing waiting to go on and your hands are sweating and you're thinking, oh, why did I say I'm going to do this? I can't do this. You know, you've practiced subconsciously in your head, you know, and you can tell those small voices, no, I know my stuff. I practiced. I've researched. I know who I'm talking to. So that one is pretty self-explanatory, but amazing how many people don't do it. Okay. Now we get on to something that I find really important, emotional language. And again, people who know me, I'd say it all the time, people listen with an emotional head on. When you're hurling facts and figures at people, they've fallen asleep. Even the most scientific person in the world wants a little bit more emotion when they're listening. So you need to use an emotional language. If you're going to motivate people or get them to do something, it's the emotional thought that's going to actually get them moving, not the facts and figures. You know, telling someone that 400 dogs were drowned in the year 20 whatever and it's going to be nothing. But one picture of one dog with, if this was your dog, would you want it treated like this, is going to have a much bigger effect for people to go and help some animal shelter. Use emotional language. And when you know what you're saying and who you're saying it to, it is far easier to find that language, the emotional language, because you're talking their language. And there's a difference between young people's emotional language and older people's emotional language. And different statements will have a different emotional effect. You know, when someone says to me, go to work on an egg, it makes me laugh. I remember the advert. It's an emotional reaction to me. If I said that to my grandson, he'd just look at me as if I'd gone mad and wondered what I was talking about. So it would have no effect. So use appropriate emotional language and move people to action through that. Really important that you use that emotional. And it goes back to the power of words. The more emotional and the more powerful they are, the more likely people are going to do something. Excuse me while I sip my tea. Okay. Moving on, because people who know me know, although I give an hour for these webinars, I like to get them done and out because you are all very, very busy people. Reveal yourself. No, I don't mean you have to strip off. I just mean people listen to people. People trust people. People build relationships with people. So be open about yourself. If you're more of an introvert, that's fine. Don't try to be anything than what you are. I happen to be very loud. Apparently, I don't believe this, but it's what people say. I'm very loud. And there was a time when I got quite upset by that and I thought I would try to quieten down, but it wasn't me at all. So I've stopped doing that. In case you hadn't noticed, I carry on now being loud. So by revealing yourself, you are opening up to your listeners who see you as a human being and connect with you. If you can tell them stories, if you can show something of your life to them, and if you watch any public speaker, often they will tell stories about their lives or reveal something about themselves, because it opens us up to a connection and it builds a relationship and we become human beings who are sort of having a conversation, if you like, rather than just someone up there talking at us. So that one is quite important. That's a difficult one. And I've put it in there because I just want you to think that if you can be yourself and don't have to worry about trying to be somebody else, you're going to have more confidence. Okay? So the next thing we need to do, using props. Some people can do this, some people can't. I work with people who just find the whole idea of talking and using a prop a bit like riding a bicycle while playing a violin. It can't be done. And the reason I say if you can use props is just that props sometimes say much more than a few words can say. If you're talking about art or some sort of creative thing and it's actually sat there, it's so much easier to link your words to that object. So I've put it in. I'm not necessarily a prop user. I wave my arms about too much. I'd end up dropping everything. But I do know great speakers who use props to great effect. So if it's something that would help you, that would make you feel more comfortable, use a prop. It'll illustrate something far better than words can. Absolutely. You know, if you're talking about a watering can with a hole in the bottom and you've got one and the audience see it, it's an extra connection to what you're saying. And if you want somebody to do something, you know, you really want to urge them on to do something, then sometimes seeing a prop or seeing a big picture really makes them, it's like a double opt-in. They want to go and do what they need to do at that point. So I've put it in there for you to think about. And that really is, only do it if you're comfortable doing it. Don't try to use props if they're just going to add to your anxiety. Reason I don't use props is because I have quite a structure to the way I speak. And I haven't yet found a speech where I've needed a prop. I've occasionally used a couple of PowerPoint slides to really illustrate a fact. And the issue I have with props, for me personally, this is only for me, I always think I'm going to forget them, or I'm going to leave them on the side of the stage, or I'm going to leave them on the stage, or I'm going to drop them, or I seem to have these mental blockages about props. So I don't use them. Why would I add to my angst, as they say? So that one is so up to you. And humour. Now this is another one. Humour is, and I'm not saying you've got to go on and be a stand-up comedian, please. The amount of people that try to start presentations and speeches with a joke who aren't funny, that's your 3 minutes gone. Trust me, your 3 minutes is over and done with. However, humour, people like to laugh. They like to break the tension at times, especially if you've got a very heavy presentation or a quite harrowing presentation to share with people, and humor can just break that tension, and rather than it turning people off, it can really pull people in, because humor is incredibly powerful, and people love funny stories. Again, I work with a gentleman who is the funniest man I know when he stands up and talks, and I would do anything to be able to use humor the way he does, in such an offhand way. It comes very, very naturally to him. And yet he's terrified about speaking in public and often uses the humor to hide behind. And I'm trying to work with him to understand that actually the humor is very powerful, and he, you know, use that as a confidence builder, not a wall to hide behind. So if you have a natural humor to you, if you have a funny anecdote or a humorous story that is linked to what you're talking about, please don't stop halfway through your presentation on the horrors of the Holocaust to tell a joke about an Irishman and Scotsman in a pub. Absolutely not appropriate. What I'm talking about is using appropriate humor that relates to the presentation you're giving and just releases some of the tension. And again, when people are laughing, they're laughing with you, and you're creating more of a connection. So don't go out of your way to add it in, but if you are naturally funny, don't be afraid to add it in. So using humor is another really lovely way, a nice simple way to give you a bit more confidence, because you know, or if you don't, you will find out that if you are talking to an audience and they are laughing with you at something that's amusing and really with you, there is nothing like it to boost your confidence in the world. Nothing. So think about that one and see where you can use humor. Moving into action. biggie of mine, another biggie of mine, apart from powerful words, knowing your stuff and all the rest of it. When you are doing a presentation or a speech, it is not about you. So many people think it's about them. And I think if you could switch that mindset to the fact that you are giving something to your audience and your listeners, you will feel much more comfortable about it. It's strange that as humans, most of us prefer to give than take. It's much more of a comfortable place to be when you are helping others than everybody's putting their attention on you. So if you can get into that mindset when you're speaking at an event or anywhere else, that you're there for your listeners, that will move a lot of that fear away, and that feeling of, I'm going to get it wrong. It'll shift it so far away if you can make that mental shift in yourself. And every speaker has a job. Every presentation, it has a job to do. It's not just because people want to waste an hour of their time or because you haven't got anything to do for the next 10 minutes. Every time you speak, every time you do a presentation, every time you do a speech, you want your audience or your listeners to do something. When you do a webinar or a video, you are trying to get your listeners to do something. So you need to know what you want your audience to do. So if you go back, when you researched your audience and you know what you're saying and why you're saying it and who you're saying it to, you have to know what it is you want them to do so you can tell them to do it. You have to have a call to action. Do you want to motivate them? Do you want to upset them? Do you want to get them to sign up to a course? Do you want to sell them something? Do you want them to give money to a charity? Whatever it may be, you have to tell them. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting theirs, because it's not about you. And when you understand that that's your job, once you begin to understand that you have to put a call to action into your speech, again, you're doing a job. It's not all about you. It's about getting them to do something. You might not necessarily get all of them to do something, but your job is to give them a call to action, such as, put your money in the box at the back, please, for animal research. Want to know more about what I'm talking about? Come and see me afterwards. Ask me some more questions. Do you want a copy of the presentation so that you can go and implement these policies or procedures? See what I mean? Towards the end, you have to give them something to do rather than, thank you very much, bye, forget about me now, I wasn't here. Okay? Because they need to remember you and they need to know what it is you want them to do. Because your job is to bring a solution. People want solutions. They want you to give them a plan of action, and they don't care how you solve the problem. They've come to you to listen to you because they want something. They either want information, they may be interested in a product, they may want to learn something, they may need to take something back to somebody else. They're there because you have a solution to something they need. So a call to action that will bring a solution to a problem they have. And you found that out because you know who your audience are, and you know who you're talking to, and you know what you're saying to them, and you know what your message is. When you start building up the bricks and you know all that, you'll be far, far more confident, because you're literally, it's almost like painting by numbers. You're just literally filling in the slots of what people need. It's almost like a ladder. And once you get to grips with that, you begin to build a structure into your speaking that makes a huge difference. Once you understand how to structure a presentation or a speech, makes a huge difference to how you feel about doing it. And I wanted to put this one in because no one ever thinks about this. Paying attention to logistics. And that seems a bit of a fancy term, but what I'm trying to say is, Do you know how many people are in the audience? Do you know how they're seated? Are they in rows? Are they round tables? Have some people got their back to you? Are there pillars in the way so that you know where to stand? Do you need a microphone? Is the room long, so you're going to need a microphone, or is it very wide? You know, do they have a microphone? Have you checked that out? Is this a dinner event? So are people eating? Are they drinking? Have you got to fight all that? So pay attention to the logistics. And a lot of this should have been organised beforehand. You need to know if they have the equipment you need to do what you're doing, if you're going to use overheads and microphones and things like that. You need to know how people are seated. You need to know if you've got windows that are going to have the sun glaring in at you so you can't see anybody or no one can see the screen. Pay attention to logistics. It's as important as the actual speech you do, because, you know, you are going to work a room and an audience, and if you disregard the logistics, the chances are you may well lose half your audience, especially if they've got their back to you, because you're going to have to work harder to get them to listen to you. So I've thrown that one in. And a lot of this, when I work with people on a one-to-one, we go through some of this stuff in quite some detail. So by the end of a course with me, they have a real beautiful toolbox, if you like, although I'm not a great fan of that phrase, of, you know, how to be a great speaker and how to do it with confidence and what to think about. And they've got the checklist and they paid attention to their logistics. They know their audience. They know what they're saying. They know their message. They know what they want their audience to do. They know all of those things that for a lot of people are unknowns before they start. And I have often sat waiting to do my bit on a stage, and I might be sat beside another speaker, and the speaker will be going, "Oh, I'm so nervous, I'm so scared." Okay, yeah, I'm a bit nervous too. And I do. I get as nervous as anybody else before I start. And she says, oh, I just don't know what's going to happen. And I've said to them, well, you know, you do know who the audience are. Oh, no, I don't know. I was just asked to come along. Well, do you know what you're going to? Well, I know what I'm going to say. And then when I say to them, but is it what they want to hear? They don't know. They haven't done their homework. So no wonder they're really nervous. I'm nervous because every person who has to stand in front of a crowd of people gets nervous. But my subconscious has all the answers. I've done the work. So I can ignore the fact that I don't know what's going on, because I do. And I know that as soon as I start, I'll be fine. And it's really important that people get all that stuff. Get organised. Know your stuff, know your stuff, know your stuff, know your stuff. I'm going to write a book called Know Your Stuff, because that's what it's about. You would not, let's face it, you would not, I don't know, let me think of something that we do. All right, you would not get a sewing machine, get a bit of material and decide to make yourself a 3-piece suit if you hadn't learned how to run a sewing machine, how much material you needed for that 3-piece suit, and what it's going to look like when you finish, and who's going to wear it and what size it is. You wouldn't do that. Yet so many people think they can get on a stage and do that when they're speaking. So you have to get organised, and you have to know your stuff, and you have to understand all the things I've talked about. It's the simplest thing in the world. Get organised and know your stuff, know your stuff, know your stuff. And you can't really go wrong, although people do, but you'll have all the backup of knowing everything. So even if you go wrong, like we all do, you'll get yourself back on track quite easily. So there we go. Just over half an hour of great stuff. You'll get a copy of this. And let me come back now to the screen. Yes, I have to stop this now. Excuse me. And I'm coming back to you now, Nicola. So that is my, right, she says, faffing about like she should. So Nicola, is there any questions you have for me, as you are the one here? And I wonder if we can turn your mic on and then you could chat to me if you wanted to. But do type if you have a question. If not, you know where I am and you can email me at any time to get that question answered. I will make sure you, Nicola, get a copy of the slides and of the full content PDF because you were wonderful enough to turn up. And a copy of the video will be available, of the webinar will be available to people. And if you are watching the replay and you've enjoyed this, please let me know. Give me some feedback. Come back to me at bevhepting.co.uk. Email me. All my contact details are at the website. And just come back and give me some feedback on it. I'd be really, really grateful if you would. And if you have any questions about what you've heard. And hopefully you'll all come back. That's okay, Nicola. Good. Get the next one next month. I'll be setting out, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head what next month's is, but I will give you a heads up for next month's webinar. And you have a great weekend. And thank you, Nicola, for coming. And I hope to see you all again soon on the next one. So remember, keep it simple, know your stuff, and practice.